Good morning, everybody, or afternoon or evening, depending on when you are listening to the I Work For Me podcast. I'm very excited today to be interviewing Justine Tinker. I know Justine as just a mom from school, and I think she knows me as just a mom from school too. But what has been really exciting about doing this podcast has been all the amazing people that have, for lack of a better term, come out of the woodwork. And I'm learning so much about the amazing people just all around me, and then obviously in the greater South African context as well. And Justine is definitely one of those people. So I am not going to tell you about Justine. I want her to tell you about her. But before that, first question, as usual, needs to be, Justine, welcome. And what is the first thing you ever wanted to be when you were a little girl?
I had to be very honest when I answered this and say Tarzan.
I love that it wasn't Jane and that it was Tarzan. And tell us, why Tarzan?
I actually don't know why Tarzan and not Jane, because I had no issue with being a girl. I think I loved what he could shout when he swung through the trees, and that he got to swing through the trees and he got to be strong and land. And I just always wanted to be Tarzan. There was no other profession. I just thought life as Tarzan was it.
Well, I mean, and in terms of what I do know about what you do, I think that there are certain similarities, slightly different, but there's an element of hanging that could be included in that. So, please tell us, what are you up to?
So at the moment, firstly, I'm a mom of three very diverse children. So I think that's probably where Tarzan needed to come in. But my main income is I teach Pilates for a living, and I've been doing it now for 18 years actually. So the studio's been going a long time. Along the way, I've always had other income structures as well. So at the moment, we sell dog food, and we've got little bits and bobs on the sideline. Honey really sells well. I also rent. I have my studio itself is a holistic business. So there's a kinesiologist and a massage therapist. But then I also residentially, life has wonderful curveballs and interesting little nooks and turns and twists, and along the line I've ended up with moving residentially and ended up with a tenant residentially as well, living with me, or a shared space, which has been a very interesting journey. But and then besides being a mom, I'm a sister. I come from an incredible family, a really lovely family. And so I'm a sister to a brother and two other sisters.
Wow.
And I'm sometimes the annoying daughter to my poor parents.
I can so relate. My poor parents, I know they live here in Fish Hoek as well. And my much adored and lovely and sweet and kind brother lives overseas. And so my poor parents are stuck with me. And I think, they're often like, oh, her. Okay, so I totally get that. That's hilarious. Great. Okay, so you are super, super busy and you've got a lot going on. Now, I mean, sure, you've had the Pilates business now for 17 years, which is incredible. Wow, that's a long time, Can you tell us, what drove you to start that business yourself? You could have been a Pilates instructor who just, worked in someone else's studio. You could have just worked at the gym up the road. but you chose to go it alone and to keep doing other things on the side as well. So what was that driving force to go your own route?
Regarding the Pilates studio, it was very simple, and that was that I had an incredible job. Well, I had an incredible opportunity to work in a very dynamic educational studio, which I loved. It was probably my ideal setting. It did require traveling, but only to Constantia, which is not very far for anyone who doesn't know Cape Town, and it's the most beautiful drive. I had started a family at this point, but more importantly, I just kept looking around and going, if I worked here, closer to home, if you will, in a different suburb, I was, earning X amount per hour, or I was traveling to this other beautiful studio and earning and being charged out at a totally different amount of money. And I just looked around and I went, this is ridiculous that we have to travel. So in Cape Town, how it works is you have certain roads that are quite important that divide areas, and then you have a mountain. And our side of the mountain is known as a bit of the granola curtains. So the sort of, I don't know, however you want to interpret a granola curtain. But I couldn't comprehend why we had to believe that to have the best Pilates experience, you had to go across a mountain. So it was as simple as looking around and going, I'm good enough. I'm working in this top studio on the other side of the mountain. My friends and the people that my children will go to school with and the people I shop with are good enough. So actually, no, we're going to have a studio as good as this other one right here on our doorstep. And that's as simple as the journey started. It was just that simple. I actually loved working at the other studio. I had no reason to leave. It was the first time I've ever been employed where I was allowed to totally plan my own life. There was no boss structure. So it was just as simple as, why can't we have it? Why can't we have it right here for us?
I love that. It's such a lovely, positive start to your business. It wasn't born out of oh my goodness, I hate driving to work, or oh my goodness, I hate the people I work with, or anything like that. What really drove you to kind of create this business was really seeing a need, where you were seeing, wow, we could have top-notch Pilates here in the valley. And as you were saying, like, the mountain is actually a thing. And I originally come from Johannesburg, which has no mountains at all. It's flat. And it's interesting when you move here where people say, oh, but it's over the mountain. And it's spoken about like a thing that is a real obstruction. And I couldn't get my head around this until I started driving up and down and over the mountain. And then I began to realize, it is a physical barrier. It's this thing that you have to drive over and drive back. And even though it's not, as you said, long or far, it becomes a mental thing. And as you say, that is definitely something that we have to kind of work around. So bringing your skills as a Pilates instructor into the valley is a great service for the people who live here. And I'm sure who can afford it as well. Some may not, but a lot probably can. So that's fantastic. I love that you actually did that 17 years ago. Good for you. Because otherwise we wouldn't have you here. Everyone else on the other side of the mountain would. So when you set that business up, what have you kind of learned over the years in terms of, one, starting that business? What was the thing that you kind of needed that maybe you didn't know about? And what are some of the learnings that you've had? I mean, 17 years is quite a while. So what are the things that stick out about that business?
Melina, if I have to be honest, I would say it has been about everything I've ever worked or jobbed or started on my own. I don't think the Pilates has been any more different to the renting, or along the way I've run a roofing company as well. I don't think it's ever been different. The one thing was, and still is, self-confidence.
Right.
There is a confidence. When I started the Pilates, it was just a drive. It was just a fire inside me. It was just, there was going to be no. It wasn't a case of, there was no other option. It kept me up at night. It was something I was going to do no matter what. But in that, there's still a confidence. So that self-confidence has been my barrier, and it's been the thing that's got me through. So when I started the Pilates, it's interesting you mentioned about the finances. Maybe people would or wouldn't be able to afford it. I was totally convinced that we couldn't afford it on this side. And I really had to learn to have a value. I had to learn that this is what the value is for a Pilates session, and just put it out there. That's what it costs, and somewhere in that self-confidence and that value, until yours grows, your clients can't either. So you attract like-minded people. Just an example, none of my other things run like this. The honey does, and the Pilates are based on honesty payments almost. So everyone knows what the costs are. I put it up every month, but it really is a terrible business formula because I don't hound people. I obviously keep an eye on, and in 17 years, I've had 2 people not pay me.
Wow. That's amazing.
So, but the Pilates attracted those people because that's what I needed. That's where I was at. I'm sure as an outsider, if you came in and you audited me, you would see that I must probably have a lot of checks in place. There must probably a lot of small things I do to ensure that my clients do pay and that. But I couldn't, sitting here now, quickly tell you what that is. So things I needed was definitely self-confidence. And that does not mean I started with it. It does not mean that it's something that's grown. And that's why I say it's also been my barrier. Every time, so Pilates' journey, Sunflower Pilates, has gone from being a main income. It was a single income. It's gone to being just a part-time income. Then after many, many years, it had to become a primary and single income again. And it shook my cage, it shook my cage to work out, well, can Pilates earn like that? Can I buy a house? Can I pay these sort of debit orders? Can I actually do it? So each time it was something in me that had to shift and change. So yeah, that's what I'd say you need. And I don't think I realized I needed it. I didn't realize I needed to know my value. I really didn't know. And I also had to develop a healthy relationship with money. Mm-hmm. I'm very much a service-orientated person, and we often tend to be not the most driven by money. Money is not the highest priority of the 3. So for me, freedom was extremely high priority when I worked. Being able to be authentic was extremely high. And to leave a legacy, so to make a change in people's lives. So when money fell so low in it, it took me a while to realize I had to develop that healthy relationship with money. To allow that to grow.
Absolutely. And I mean, we've spoken about this with a few people in terms of money and how we see it and what are the subconscious thoughts that we have around money and earning, and it speaks so much to value and how we put ourselves out there. And in a small community such as we live in, it's often quite tricky to kind of put a value to the services that you present into the community, because people and you kind of want to go, oh, but it's okay, I'll just charge you a little bit less because I know you. And it's so easy to fall into that trap, whereas that person would go to someone else and pay full price. So a very interesting thing to kind of stick to your guns and to be able to associate that value with money and confidence. And quite interesting that you've put those three together, because they do kind of, often sit together. Very, very interesting. Yeah. And I'm glad that your confidence has grown. That's great. Were you not? I always think of you as extremely confident. I can't imagine you being a wallflower.
No, I was probably definitely an extrovert. But so again, using the example of Pilates of the businesses, Pilates was a fascinating one, because the buy-in for a client is to really invest a lot of money up front before we would put them into a class. So there's a lot of education around it. And I used to really, really stress with every single time I had to assess a client. And it was meeting the client's needs, like their expectation. That was it, the expectation. So I used to think I was terrible at it. And the irony, if I look back over the years, what is different if you came to my studio compared to a different studio? And the trainers at Sunflower Pilates Studios get the body. They understand movement. They are passionate about being able to connect you with your body and to let you feel what they see. So ironically, the exact thing that I thought was my weakness has actually been my strength over the years. So I never had a problem with chatting to my clients or having the confidence to open the door of the Pilates studio. That was never where my hiccup was. Mine was much more I always saw it as smaller. And I think that's some advice I'd most probably give people if they're sitting at home and they've got an idea or something that's burning in them that they want to do. So often the thing that you think, well, no one will want it because, I can do it, so anyone can. That's exactly what someone else needs.
Right.
And it's repeated in history so many times,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it's about that thing that, yes, maybe someone else can do it. Absolutely. There are only so many things to do in the world. But will they do it in the way that you do it is the question. And so absolutely, someone will resonate with your studio because it's offering a specific need in them. And maybe with another studio because it offers something that you can't necessarily give them. And it may not be easy to even identify exactly what that is, but it's kind of written in the marrow of what you offer, if you want to put it that way. So I wanted to ask you, you've mentioned that you've got a few other businesses on the go. So tell us, I'm fascinated about honey because I love honey and I love that honeybees and sunflowers go together. And then you also mentioned dog food. Love that. Hilarious. And what else? Tell us about all these businesses.
So if I'm honest, most of them are taking a bit of a backseat at the moment. Pilates is by far my main focus at the moment, where most of my income comes from. The dog food one is just hysterical because I used to have my dog food delivered and the guy was just so bad at having it I mean, and you really are looking at most probably not the best administrator you've ever met in your life. So for me to say he was bad, he was really bad at
So,
having stock and getting it delivered. And then life happened as life does, and my daughter horse rides, and horse riding's been everything to her. Absolutely. I mean, in fact, it taught her how to walk. She couldn't walk until she started horse riding, so that's a whole journey in itself.
wow.
And this guy, the one day when I got the dog food, I said, seriously, don't you want to like just let me have this business? Like, can I just take it over? And he laughed at me. And about a month later, he came to me and he said, will you take my business over? And I said, perfect. I'm going to give it to my daughter. I want her to learn to do something, and that can generate her money to keep her horse riding, because things had changed and she needed to generate an income. So that's actually how the dog food started. Needless to say, my daughter is a daughter and not an adult. And she doesn't drive. So actually, Mom does the dog food business.
It's interesting because that is how pets are. Oh, mommy, I need a kitten, I need a dog, I need a goldfish, whatever it is. Who is the person cleaning the cat box, picking up? Yeah, it is always mom. So isn't that funny? Anything related to pets is a mom job. Just know that from the start.
I mean, just again, a little thing about businesses is if you make a mistake, and you're going to, any business, you're going to make, and some of them are going to be big blunders. I mean, my daughter deleted 2 years of sales the other day. When she updated the spreadsheet, which I've left her to do because she's actually very good at admin, she just deleted the whole lot. So we have no idea. I couldn't tell you now if the dog food is broken even or not.
No.
But it's not in the it's in the simplicity sometimes that the little kitty has kept going. X went in, we made that money back, and then we could buy some more. It's really as simple as that often. Running your own thing, or starting up, or getting going.
Yes, absolutely. And I love that in terms of that you saw the business as an opportunity to do something else. It tied into an interest that your daughter had. And it's lovely that it was what comes in and what goes out. And it can be that simple. It absolutely can be that simple. So that speaks to, if someone wants to start a business, just start maybe something small, something simple. Maybe take something over that you're interested in and that you think that someone's doing quite badly. And maybe you could put your own spin on it and do it quite well, which is, I think, what you've done. So that is lovely learning. Thank you. And honey, tell us about honey.
So the honey was actually a client that had a farm. The beauty about my primary job is I meet the most fascinating people with Pilates in common, and that's it. People that would not otherwise meet. And this particular client, her and her husband owned a farm as well, and they had olives, wine, and honey. And she brought the honey. I used to get honey off her, and then it started again as an honesty thing, where I have a shelf in the studio, and people who make their own soaps or have honey. So it has to be a home produce, and it has to be from a client. It can't be from someone else. They would put it there, and they'd have a little box, and people would put their money in or take their change out, and that was up to them to stock this little shelf. And the honey absolutely moved. I have never seen anything move. Good quality raw honey is just a must-have.
Yeah.
And then she moved to her farm for good. Yay. And we used to still get the honey delivered. And then as her life as often happens in your journey, your supplier's life changes. And then I found sort of hunted around and tried to stick to at least local. So I found a local guy, and yeah, we're back up and going with honey.
Amazing. That's fantastic. And I have this absolute desire to one day have my own honeybees. So, yeah, maybe I'll just have to pop in and buy some honey for the moment. I think I'm a few light years away from having my bees and swanning around and picking flowers. Yeah. Just love that. Love that you've got all these different things going. Some are smaller, some are bigger. And I think that's what we find with having multiple streams of income, is that there might be one bigger one, but in the shift and change, especially in now when we're seeing these COVID crises, that your Pilates maybe goes a little bit down, but maybe delivering honey goes up, or people need dog food, or whatever the case may be. But it's important to have all those kind of balls in the air so that you can at least lean on different things differently. So that's super exciting. So in terms of, you hinted at some failures, so like your the loss of the spreadsheet. Any failures that you would think that have really kind of made you think differently about how you do business, or have adjusted how you engage in business? Major learnings from failures.
I think the biggest one, and there've been lots. Oh, I mean, the list goes on, and some are as small as stubbing your toe, and others are catastrophic. The biggest one was actually the best lesson I ever learned, and it has followed through into everything. And it was when we were running a roofing company. We had a contract at the back of your quote, on acceptance of a quote. And we had a client come along and want to change almost every single thing on the contract. And the contract was it was an extremely reasonable contract. Anyway, the long and the short of it was that whole job just was a nightmare. So the lesson for me was, never ever change your ground rules. It will always come back and sting you in the butt, whether it's that you don't work on Saturday mornings, and then a client is desperate, you're feeling the crunch for money, and now you decide you're going to work on Saturday morning. Somewhere that relationship is going to end up tipped the wrong way and against you. You have these boundaries, and you have these terms that you work under for a reason. And sometimes we don't even know why they're there. We don't see how we can be stung. So my biggest thing was, know your boundaries, or know your terms or your conditions to sell or to be a member of my Pilates studio, and don't waver from them. Don't change them. You don't have to make excuses for the way you want to operate anything. There's enough people out there. The people will come to you that will come to you. So whether it's you talking about the marrow that's in you of what you offer, or whether it's just your boundaries, it's fine. Never make excuses for what you offer.
I think that is excellent advice. It comes down to, as you say, your core values, and then also contractually how that impacts a job. And often we look at contracts and we try and figure out, why would someone put that in, and it's usually because someone has, burnt someone else, and now that clause exists. And so, yeah, a very, very important lesson in terms of, not kind of giving in order to get that job. And then also in terms of, not having to explain why it is like it is. It is like it is. And there is a good reason for that. So Lovely, lovely advice. I absolutely love that. So, what would be something that you would tell someone starting their own gig? So, whoever comes into your studio and they say, I'm going to start this business, what would be your piece of advice as you contort them into some cruel Pilates position?
I always say I fly but by the seat of my pants. I see something and then I just go for it, and I start putting in business cards and advertising much later on. But I think the truth is we all actually do a form of market research. I think we all actually know or network or something before we start. So I think all those traditional business things are so relevant. However, life has changed so much just this year, just 2020. If there's something that's come out of 2020, I think it's a way you're going to approach or start businesses even. I think putting a pilot out there, so whether you're ready or you're not, so where I would have maybe called it flying by the seat of my pants, I think there's a structure to it. I think a pilot is you would start something and let it grow from there. And yes, it's a bit scary because for someone like me, I don't like to offer what I can't deliver. So I would hate to offer, say I can offer, I'm going to use exercise environments as an example. I can offer 3 classes a day. And then it turns out that, I can't or whatever. But I think offer it, get going, and you will grow into it. Or you will, and as long as you're authentic, I think it's about being very authentic with your clients. I've been extremely privileged where I can be very authentic with my clients. I mean, I'd love to have lied to you and told you that I wanted to be something else when I was younger, but the beauty is I can tell you it was Tarzan. And
yes,
and when you're authentic, you going forward as you start this business, there's a tool in psychology that says don't look for the negative or the difficult in something when it could be explained in a very reasonable way. So if a client doesn't rock up, don't take it personally. That's their thing. Don't take bigger knocks than that you need to when you get going. Just get going, and it is work. It's gonna be work, but what you're doing now is work. It's no different. We all work. Whether you're a stay-at-home mom, you are working really, really hard. If I'm speaking to a mother figure, if you're sitting without a job, that is hard. That is not a nice place to be.
no.
So it's not going to be any harder falling on your face a few times while you start this endeavor.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you, Justine. I think you have given so much great advice, and I love what you're doing. So unfortunately, I think we've run out of time, but I just wanted to say thank you, and I hope that all your endeavors go from strength to strength, especially the honey and the Pilates, obviously. And wishing you well on your journey, and hopefully we will chat soon.
Melina, congratulations on doing this. Really, I know it's stepping out again, and well done. Keep going. Help the rest of us.
Yay! I hope to. Fantastic. Thank you so much.